Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're looking at a man, the goat of chess. Not just a man, the goat of chess. We're going back to 1999. So maybe we should make this a little bit more thematic. Let's go. There it is. Now I look like what it was like in 1999. If you don't enjoy this, please tell me down below, and then I will never do it again. But we're looking at Kasparov's Immortal game versus Veselin Topalov. Now, some of you may know that in 1997, Garry Kasparov lost to Deep Blue, so engines are officially better than computers. But in 1999, 2 years after this, Kasparov is very much at the peak of his powers, including getting the highest rating ever recorded at the time, 2851. Magnus Carlsen would go on to pass that, but it was still a massive, massive rating. So we're going to look at the game, and it's Kasparov being Kasparov. So I'll jump in there, still Sepitone over here, and where's it gone now? We had a subscriber goal at the bottom, but it's gone now. What are you doing? Oh, it's back, Please, I would really appreciate it if you subscribed. If you enjoy the video, if you don't enjoy the video, let me know, and I want to improve. But Kasparov's Immortal. He's got the white pieces versus Veselin Topalov. Topalov, 2700, would go on to play for the World Championship in later years. Kasparov, obviously, I don't think his World Championship match where he loses is against Kramnik in the following year of this. So it's a Pirc Defense. We get knight to f6, and now knight to c3. Now, some of you, that's not a move, some of you may be asking, can't I attack the knight? You can, but it's worth it because the queens get traded. So that's just a very early on thing in the Pirc. I know I played that sometimes as a beginner, so that's why Kasparov plays knight to c3. You develop a knight, you protect your queen in case of the queen trade. You develop the bishop, and you can see very early on, Garry Kasparov makes his intentions known that he would like to trade off black's dark square bishop, particularly if the king goes that way, because then the king will be vulnerable, he'll have weak squares, and you won't have this fianchettoed sniper bishop across your position. We get c6 and f3. Why f3? Because if Kasparov waits a bit longer, there could be various knight g4s displacing this bishop and preventing the bishop going to h6. Let me just take a sip of water. So, b5. Now, this is a very committal move, because Garry has not castled queenside yet, but he probably will. But it gains space on the queen side, and it forces Garry to do something. He brings his knight g2, knight bd7, and now he goes for this trade to get the queen in, and he does. So now black cannot go kingside, so we get bishop to b7, a3 rather than h3, e5, getting nice central space, and long castles from Garry, queen e7, and then king b1, a6, solidifying, knight c1, and long castles from Veselin Topalov. This was obviously a classical game, so don't worry about times and stuff like that. Both players have elected to go long. So there's a bit of symmetry in the position. That's about it. We've traded one set of bishops. So you're looking at kind of the structure. Garry has got a very solid structure here playing against this bishop. Okay, so his structure is very good. You can see the pawns in orange are repelling the bishop in red. His queen's a little bit offside though, and this knight on c1 needs a move to get it into the game. Veselin probably has slightly better pieces in terms of coordination, but he's pushed a lot of pawns in front of his king. So his king is potentially very weak. And if you've seen this game before, you know his king is very, very weak. So we get knight b3 from Garry, activating his knight. We get a trade in the center, and he takes with the rook. Some of you might be tempted to take the knight, but he takes with the rook. Induces c5 and drops back. Pawns don't go backwards, but rooks can. Very important. Knight to b6, and now g3. Undermining the structure a little bit, but now I've got potential to outflank you with my bishop and create very nice attacking chances. So king b8 sidesteps that, but now knight a5. We're jumping in. We're going after the pieces here. The bishop retreats because you don't want it captured, because then you've got real squared problems in your position if you don't have that bishop to help you defend. Now we get bishop to h3, and this king is starting to feel a little bit under pressure. This bishop is controlling lots of squares. This knight is controlling good squares. The king has 2 squares to move to, and those could be cut off very, very quickly. And d5 from Veselin Topalov, striking back in the center. We play queen f4 check, king a7 into the corner. As much into the corner as you can get. Your bishop's in the exact corner. And then rook h1, lining up on the queen. We play d4, the knight jumps in, and we get this trade. And here we get queen to d6. And here Garry Kasparov would have had Levy Rosman screaming, Gotham Chess screaming, because what do you think he did in this position? If you think he traded queens, you do not know Garry Kasparov. Garry Kasparov probably figures his inner Mikhail Tal here in this position, his inner Gotham Chess, and he sacrifices the rook. Rook takes d4. I put a little brilliant emoji. C takes d4, and now rook e7. This one is a little bit simpler to understand. This one is purely, I think, to open up the king, because you can take it. This one is easy enough to understand. If queen takes, then queen d4 is mate in 4. You can see the bar shoots up. So you cannot take rook e7. So we get king to b6. King to b6 is what gets played. The king is now being hunted. We get queen takes d4 all the same, losing the knight. Veselin Topalov is up 6 points of material, but his king is being hunted to a5 and to a4. Queen c3 is a miss from Garry. Unfortunately, it wasn't all best moves. But just look at this position. The most advanced piece for black is the king. It's the only piece to cross halfway. This is the halfway line for black. Like this is their half. The only piece in white's half is the black king. The best move here, can't be king b6. What? The analysis is old. King b6, queen d4, king takes a5, b4, king a4, queen c3 is the best move. I don't know why it's down as a miss. Okay. Queen takes d5 comes just in the nick of time because you were threatening mate. And let's not forget, black is up 7 points of material. Garry has to make this king. So we get rook a7, but bishop b7. And Topalov with his extra material is just holding on. But he's not, because rook takes b7. He has to give up the bishop, because the queen cannot take because of mate. So you have to play queen to c4. Now, if Garry trades the queens here, it's over. But we take on f6. How many of you noticed that knight was hanging? And now the material is not looking that bad. Topalov's only up 1 point of material. But there's a rook coming down. There's a queen over here, and the king could even help mate you. So king takes a3, which is just ridiculous. The king's still the most advanced piece. It wants to lead the charge. Queen now takes a6. King takes b4. You can't go forwards. It's like your only legal move. Now we're looking at various ways to give checks, but actually the best move is c3. You have all these wonderful pieces, but you're just trying to kill the coordination. So king takes c3. Now you've got queen a1 check, and Garry saw all this. He saw this next sequence of moves, which is all the more impressive. I mean, pretty from all the way back here, when he sacrificed the rook, all those moves ago, he saw all of this, where he systematically hunts Topalov's king, ignore that miss, wins the bishop, wins the knight back, gives a check, c3, now he's got queen a1 check, king to d2, and he's got the unbelievable bishop queen d2 check, king d1, he's got bishop f1, which hits the queen, rook d2, which hits the white queen. So if you take my queen, I take your queen with check. But he's got rook d7, forcing rook d7, bishop takes. When you take the bishop, I take your rook. And the game is over, kind of. There's one move here. We get rook to d3. Queen a8, c3, because you have to push the pawn. Now there's check, the king moves over, and f4, and after f5 there's simply king to c1, rook to d2, and queen a7. And you will not be able to force this pawn through, and there will be checks, winning the rook, winning the pawn, and the game is over. One more time, from the beginning. It was a Pirc Defense. You know, Garry castled long, played conservatively in the opening, got an advantageous exchange, moved his king b1, rerouted his knight, took with the rook, inducing c5, bringing the rook back. Then he gave space for his bishop and his knight to infiltrate, and when d5 was played, he brought the queen back with check, he brought the rook to hit the queen, and when d4 was played, he jabbed his knight in, and from there it did not stop, because knight takes, pawn takes, a queen trade was offered, and from here, the demolition derby, the absolute destruction of the black position and the hunting of the black king began with a rook sacrifice, but he didn't just do it once, he did it twice. Rook to e7 check is the most disgusting move I have ever seen. Rook to d4 probably actually is more disgusting because the advantage is not seen right away. Because obviously if you take my queen, I take with the rook, which is not a problem. So you would say, what's the advantage of sacking the rook? You're opening the king, because eventually the queen would take and force the king, not only forwards, but to the edge of the board where he's got minimal escape squares, and mate is constantly threatened. So the material that you gave up, you get to win back. Because the bishop gets one back, the knight gets one. So now it's bishop for rook, and soon after, it's check, check, and bishop f1. When you sack this rook for a moment, here it is it's two rooks versus queen and bishop. Probably, just because mate's constantly threatened, you maybe could try and save the rook, but I don't think you can. Rook d3 is mate in 3. What happens if you go here? Mate 1, queen e2. Oh, queen e2. Huh, I just was mate 1. Anyway, yeah, so you can't even save your rook. So yeah, it was the taking of the bishop and then capturing the rook, and this was just a completely winning endgame. And this is why it's one of the immortals. In the series, I mean, if you watch Magnus Carlsen's Immortal, the Gotham Chess Immortal that I made, Paul Morphy's game, one of his famous games, the opera game, where he just sacrifices everything. Garry sacrifices two rooks and a knight. Let's not forget about the knight that was just taken on the edge of the board. Wins the pieces back, and the black king made it to e1. It was just about the only black piece, other than, I think maybe the queen made it to the back rank, to make it to the first rank of white. And it ends the game the most advanced piece. And the middle of the game was the most advanced piece. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it was enjoyable. I hope you enjoyed the nostalgic feel of it in terms of the color palette. And I hope you'll subscribe and help me on my journey. Thank you so much. See you next time.